This is Matters of the Heart and Immune System, written by MothMothhMothh, read by Satora Reads. Summary. The 5 times Midorya was told he was in love, and the 1 time he was told the actual cause. Midorya was certain there was something wrong. He'd been feeling off recently. But it was only as he sat in his seat across from Ida that he was finally able to put his finger on it. He turned to Uraraka, hastily writing down his thoughts on a small piece of paper before passing it to her. "My heartbeat is wrong," he'd originally written. Uraraka unfolded the note, raising an eyebrow before shooting Midorya an indecipherable look, scrawling something down and returning the paper. "Oh, is it around anyone in particular?" The student paused in thought, brow furrowing, as he attempted to come up with a common factor. His issue had begun on the weekend, whilst going down oddly specific Wikipedia rabbit holes with Ida as a way to wait out heavy rain outside. It hadn't improved by Monday, when he'd shared lunch with a close selection of friends, including Ida. By Tuesday, the feeling had gotten worse, more notably during the period of time spent walking to the school's library to return books with Ida. The books, of course, were directly related to the aforementioned Wikipedia deep dives. Midoriya hurriedly wrote down his findings, narrowly avoiding being caught by Aizawa as he handed it over to his trustworthy friend. The teenager tugged at the now untucked part of his shirt as he awaited the verdict. Uraraka turned back to face him, grinning widely as she discreetly pointed at him, made a heart shape, and indicated towards Ida. "You're in love," she mouthed, leaving no room for misinterpretation. Midoriya blinked owlishly, far too relieved to have an answer to even consider questioning it. "Okay." Although Monoma was argumentative, prickly, and generally the source for more than half of all arguments at UA, once the sports festival had gotten most of it out of his system, he'd, albeit begrudgingly, grown to accept the horror of sitting at the same table as 1A students. Midoriya was currently only a few seats away, thoroughly immersed in a conversation about sand perches with Todoroki. Or at least he was, until the discussion was rudely interrupted by a loud sniffle. The student paused, mid-word, eyes tearing up slightly as he slowly pulled out a tissue. Uraraka narrowed her eyes, gaze switching between the runny-nosed Midoriya and Monoma, who had just been approached by another 1B student. "Sorry," Midoriya meekly offered, before attempting to re-enter the sand perch conversation. His classmate, however, was now alert, eyeing her 2 suspects in silent observation. She raised an eyebrow, as another of Midoriya's sniffles aligned with each sentence spoken by Monoma's conversation partner. Her suspicions were only solidified, however, when Kendo gave Monoma a firm pat on the back, followed near instantly with a loud sneeze from Midoriya. Uraraka pulled her friend aside, holding his shoulders tightly. "You are experiencing mild heartbreak. I'm here if you'd like to talk about it." Midoriya, who had made his way through 2 packs of tissues already, simply nodded. "Okay." As if his previous alignments of love and heartbreak weren't bad enough, Midoriya had gained yet another symptom. Whilst accompanying Uraraka on a trip to a convenience store, he'd noticed his hands growing increasingly sweaty. No matter how many times he'd wiped them off or washed them, his issue remained unsolved. By roughly the halfway point of their hangout, his hands weren't the only thing affected. His face was of a similar condition, a light red tint just barely visible in Midoriya's camera app. Having already received such helpful aid from his friend, Midoriya hesitated to bother her for a 3rd time, instead frantically typing up a post for an online forum dedicated to simple advice, whilst pretending to look at the wide selection of emancipation-themed cards. The teenager decided to let his post fester, until he returned to UA, to which he was met with a resoundingly one-sided conclusion. Buddy. One comment read, "You're in love." Midoriya scrolled down. So, who's the lucky culprit? Without much consideration, Midoriya made the logical decision to delete both the post and his account with nothing more than a simple resolute "Okay," announcing his acceptance of his feelings to the empty dorm room. Heroics training was often dangerous, to the surprise of, hopefully, no one. It wasn't out of the ordinary to end up in one of Recovery Girl's well-used beds, but like most people, Midoriya tried to avoid doing so to the best of his abilities. Due to this, he was quite relieved when Yaozu managed to drag him out of the way mere moments before part of a building roof landed where he'd been standing. Thank you, Yaozu-san," he offered, staggering slightly as he took a step back. "Of course," she smiled, checking him over for possible injuries, before returning to her cool-down stretches. Midoriya was just about to follow suit, pausing in his tracks as his vision clouded over slightly. He frowned. He waited the short amount of time it took for the lesson to end, before approaching Aizawa with his concerns. "I think I'm lightheaded," he stated, staring at the man with hope in his eyes. Aizawa placed a comforting hand on the student's shoulder. "I felt the same way about a classmate too, kid." Midoriya tilted his head, as if it would help him decipher the hero's words better. "That classmate is my husband now," he clarified, offering the teenager a placating pat on the back. "Ah." Group outings weren't exactly rare among UA students, not even those containing pupils from other schools. So it wasn't out of the ordinary for Ketsubutsu or Shiketsu students to be mixed in. Having only met Shindo a few times prior, Midoriya made the logical decision to keep a short distance in order to avoid a social blunder. Eagle-eyed Uraraka gazed at Midoriya contemplatively. During the course of the day, the group had at one point picked up drinks. Midoriya stared off into the distance as he chewed on his straw in contemplation. By the time he regained focus, the ice in his drink had melted. The straw was entirely devoured, and Uraraka was shooting Shindo thoughtful looks. He blinked, one eye at a time, as he took in the new surroundings. Ida frowned, taking a step closer. "Midoriya-kun, are you alright? You look flushed." Uraraka slapped her wrist onto her open palm. "Have you got a crush on Shindo?" she whispered, as if a sleeper agent hearing an activation phrase. Midoriya's subconscious chose that exact moment to collapse. Bright lights greeted Midoriya as he blearily blinked awake, forcing himself into a sitting position with his shaky arms. He groaned, running a hand through his hair and down his face. Uraraka was occupying the seat closest to him, too invested in the frantic writing of notes to take notice of his return to consciousness. Shindo had a mildly guilty expression plastered on his face, taking the seat next to her. Ida offered him a glass of water, minus a straw. After a brief moment, the door was pushed open, finally snapping Uraraka out of her writing. A doctor stepped in, holding a clipboard loosely. "Using my deductive reasoning, I have concluded that you have the flu. If you head down to the pharmacy and hand them this..." He passed over a prescription for a brand-name product, simply titled Rodent Nibbles. "Thank you, doctor." Midoriya squinted at his name badge, Tatemono. Uraraka shot Shindo a guilty look. "I suppose I may have preemptively blamed you?" Without another word, Shindo offered Midoriya a hazed nod and left the room. Midoriya turned to his friend, stretching out his hand as close to her as he could manage. "I have a sneaking suspicion it wasn't romance-related." "Yeah," she sniffed, patting his hand. "Me too." So this was Matters of the Heart and Immune System by MothMothhMothh. read by Satori Reed. If you wanna read or listen to more of this author, let me know. The link to their account is in the description. And see you next time.